The growth of viewership from platforms that have ad-supported placement is growing 1.5 times faster than the rate of subscriptions for streaming services.
Whether it's a blessing or a curse, may live in interesting times. It's something that's very true right now. There's a ton of upheaval in mobile advertising, as everybody in the space knows. There's also significant growth and change in CTV, streaming, OTT, smart TV, connected TV, whatever you want to call it. What's happening? Why? What's going on? And how can you take advantage of it? Today, we're chatting with Guillaume Lelait, who is the Managing Director Americas for M&C Saatchi. He's formerly from AppSumer. He's Fetch. He's been everywhere. He's done everything. Welcome, Guillaume.
Thank you, John. Always a pleasure to see you and to speak with you. And I'm excited to talk.
It has been entirely too long, so it is a real pleasure here. Let's start here. I mean, I mentioned a bunch of the names. Have we settled on CTV now? There's so many acronyms here.
Yeah, I think there have been definitely different definitions. We talk about streaming TV. I think it kind of like encapsulates, the right term, meaning, ultimately it is video through internet streaming on any devices. OTT is a bit old school because ultimately it was what you were subscribing to over the top, right? So on top of your cable. So I think we use OTT a bit less, but yeah, and CTV relates to the fact that yes, the number one way to access internet through or streaming TV is through a connected TV, whether it's a Samsung, an LG, and so on. So that's about the definitions we use. So streaming TV first and foremost.
Perfect. Give us a bit of a sense, give us an overview. I mean, like we've come through COVID, right? When everything shot up for entertainment, mobile games went through the roof, streaming services went through the roof. It's kind of a blue ocean. We had so many new services start up and everybody was spending billions of dollars on new content and, just flowing out all this explosion of creativity thanks to these dollars here. What's going on in this space? What's happening in this space? Who are the major players right now?
I mean, in terms of like content, we are all aware of the Netflix, the Disney Plus, the HBO Max, Peacock, Hulu. It's a lot, right? Like how many subscriptions do you have, John? But what we are seeing in the past 18 months, it's also a move to ad-supported tiers, right? So they for a long time, there's been like AVOD services. So, services which are 100% free and ad supported, Pluto TV, Tubi TV, for example.
Crackle.
Crackle. But what has been happening for the past year and a half is that, the platform always said, we will never have any ads on our platform, such as Netflix. Just said, you know what, we're changing our mind. We are going to open an ad supported tier. So we are seeing, a number of new platforms that are opening up to advertisers. Similarly, Hulu was kind of like the first one to have like a middle tier where, you could, do you want to not see any ads? Do you want to see ads? Yes, you can pay a little bit less. So I think ultimately it's good. It gives the choice to the consumer, right? Which, do you want to see ads? Do you want to pay a premium to actually don't see any commercials? So that's the main thing we're seeing. What is interesting is, we've seen a couple of studies. Disney Plus released that, 30% of their users say they would switch from the highest tier to an ad-free subscription. So definitely, with the pandemic, the inflation, the number of services you want to keep live, we can see that, consumers are also looking at a way to reduce how much they spend on premium content. So basically what that means is that we are seeing minutes, taking over. So the growth of viewership from platforms that have ad-supported placement is growing 1.5 times faster than the rate of subscriptions for for streaming services. So I think that really shows, that there is a wave coming of a large audience that is, watching streaming TV, and also there is a lot of like ad opportunities.
It's super interesting. You said off the top, how many streaming services do you have? And I would have to count. I know I have Apple TV Plus. I know I have Disney Plus. I know I have Prime, Amazon Prime Video. I know I have Netflix. I think that's it, but I'm pretty sure there's a couple others on the box, on the smart TV, some apps there that have ads, right? That are free to me right now. It makes sense that we're entering this space right now, because if you think about it, way back when, going way decades and decades back, TV was free, right? You got it off the air. You could still do that, actually. Some people still do that, right? Then you bought cable or you bought satellite, and you spent what, 50, 100, 150, 200, depending on what you wanted, right? And then we cut the cord. Hey, I've got my streaming services. I've got all the entertainment I ever want. And we're back to the $150 to $200 plus probably the cable or the satellite for your sports or your live events, Olympics and stuff like that. It's a kind of a crazy mix right now.
Yeah, and you bring up a good point. I think we've seen the recent World Cup as well as the Olympics. Sports and live sport is the kind of last trend, right? And that's why you see Amazon buying rights of sports leagues, and it's the reason why you were keeping maybe like a cable subscription and not really cutting the cord completely, is because you still wanted to have access to live sports, and with players like Fubo TV, and who are like mostly they are premium subscription, but they also have an ad placement, so they also make a lot of revenue through ads. You can see that there is definitely a big shift in the behavior. In terms of size, in the US, I'm surprised. I don't own a Roku TV OS, but Roku is by far the number one in terms of a streaming service. Followed closely, with Amazon Fire TV as well. And then let's not forget your Google Chromecast,
Right.
PlayStation, console that also allow you to have access to certain channels. So it's very fragmented, right? And Apple TV is actually like, based on some Comscore data, like about 5, 6, 7% of the market, right? So it's we are not there yet at an adoption of like in the 40s, 50%, 60%, like iPhone or iOS in the US. So so it is very fragmented. We see two main large players, Amazon, Roku, and then it's kind of a long tail, right? It is we see Amazon Fire and Roku being a little bit the or similarly to Apple, it's kind of like it's also a store where you can distribute your channel, so you can buy ads to drive. You can buy ad placement inside of like the Amazon Fire TV to drive adoption of your channel, right? So the way we see it, similarly to podcasts, we are together doing a growth podcast. Maybe in a couple of years, singular, or we'll have a growth mastermind channel on Amazon Fire TV. And
Are you saying we don't? Are you saying we don't?
You don't?
We don't.
No. But you will. You might get that in a few years. So I think we see a trend of more and more content moving to those platforms, right? And distribution of content is increasing on Amazon Fire TV and Roku. So there are some ad placement which are very similar to here you don't install an app. I mean, you install more maybe a channel, right, to your Amazon Fire TV or Roku. So that's one side of the market. But of course, we can unpack what else do you want to know about what we've learned this year, maybe, John?
I'm fascinated by what you're talking about right now, because I'm coming more from the mobile side of digital, and we understand that world very well. We've lived in that world for a decade plus, right? That world is bounded by two major, let's say a duopoly, right? We've got
Mhm.
Apple, we've got Google, we've got the iOS App Store, we've got Google Play, we've got apps on each of them, and we kind of know how that works. We kind of know how the monetization works there, but we have um, something similar in connected TV and streaming TV. You've got the platforms that you mentioned. There's also YouTube TV. There's the Apple TV that you mentioned. There's Roku that you mentioned, Fire TV, right? But then you've got the streaming services as well that are available on all of those. How's that fit together? How's that different? How's that similar to this mobile app ecosystem that we
Yeah.
know?
I think, the way we see the streaming TV space right now is, first of all, a large amount of the inventory is video based, and it's actually non-skippable. So compared to, let's say, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, where everything we think about as performance marketers is like, hey, what is our hook rate? How many seconds is someone watching you?
Mhm.
TikTok, Facebook, is it 2 seconds, 3 seconds before they skip? Here, most platforms are like, oh, we guys, your campaigns worked. You had a 96% completion rate. Yeah, but guess what? You can't skip the ad, right? So on C, just like, so,
What happened to the 4%?
yeah. Well, maybe someone switched and they were like, what, I actually don't want to watch this program. But
Yeah.
it's funny that a lot of the current ad format that are available are 15-second, 30-second spots. They are sometimes repurposing what they've learned on linear TV, but ultimately also the big difference between mobile and CTV is that the number of ad placement available is a lot less. So
Yes.
if you play a beautiful casual game, I'm sure, John, you do, right? Like a quick game, every couple of levels, you get exposed to, an ad. That's kind of the ecosystem we've been in for a long time in mobile, right? Which is free games and ad supported games, and the number of placement of ads is much greater, right?
Mm.
On CTV, it's about 4 to 6 minutes per hour. Maybe Hulu is doing 12 ads per hour, but it doesn't give, it's much slimmer, right? So,
Yes.
and it's non-skippable. So I think this is where we see the kind of difference in terms of like environment. And of course, we've already seen um, how it can be relevant for performance advertisers, right? Ultimately, you've mentioned YouTube. Well, YouTube has launched now a new format where if you are watching YouTube on your Apple TV, you can skip the ad, or you can also send to your phone, the link of the ad you are seeing. So
Mhm.
you can see how certain players are trying to already kind of close the loop, right? And if, I wouldn't be surprised that if you had the Disney Plus app on your iPhone, but you also watch Disney Plus on your connected TV, maybe the ads you're going to see are also offering you a chance to receive maybe, a push notification to your phone so that you can you can maybe install an app or, take action, right? So I think this is where things are starting to be interesting. It's about the kind of like inside of those walled garden, the kind of like, how do they keep you in, and also, just are able to directly make you take an action, right? And I think this is an interesting kind of like ad format that we're seeing developing.
Not only is that interesting, but you said something that made something click for me, like because I have a variety of streaming apps on my Apple TV, right? The Apple
Mm.
TV is the platform, and I've got a bunch of streaming apps on there. Great. Um, and I haven't felt the need to download Disney Plus to my phone, or in fact, Netflix isn't here either. But I can see now how it would be advantageous to Netflix or Disney Plus or Amazon Prime or any other service to be in both places, because they can connect me, they can learn a lot more about me, they have a lot more first party data about me, and perhaps also target better ads.
Netflix is doing a big push to divert consumers to, they want you to subscribe through the web, right? So that they can have they can have your credit card, your emails. It's actually not going through in-app purchase through,
Yes.
they want to, they want to save a few percentage on the subscription. So, you can see some players like Roku. Roku is launching a partnership with, I think, Walmart, where ultimately you are seeing an ad, and from your remote you can take an action, and if you want to make a purchase, you can actually buy something, and they will have your credit card on file, and you can see where it's going, right? So
And it's pretty obvious why they're not choosing Amazon as a partner.
guess what?
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's just I think you asked me earlier, what are the key vertical? It's going to be commerce. I mean, yes, apps and gaming will lead the way. And I've listened to, there are like famously a few great app studio doing, at scale CTV, but it is commerce. It is, and I think, YouTube, Roku, those players who have, you know, either more intent data, the fact that Google and YouTube is able to also connect with your search data, so they know what you are actually looking for. They will display a nice, commerce-based ad pre-roll, and you can take action with your remote on your Apple TV or on your phone and get the offer. And Roku, I think, will try to do the same thing, where ultimately, they will make the transaction and a purchase pretty seamless using their hardware.
That's a really interesting point you just made about Google, YouTube, and YouTube TV. By the way, we talked about sports, and YouTube TV is making it just came out today, a $2.5 billion offer for Sunday ticket NFL games, right? But that's a great point. I mean, I sign into the account on YouTube, right? So they know who I am. They know who I am in terms of my browsing activity, my searching activity. So they can tailor really, really good ads there, perhaps better than some other players, but Amazon knows a lot as well. So there's a lot of interesting things there. You mentioned the CTV to mobile app marketing advertising space. We've seen some players have some significant success there. Do you think you don't think that's as big ultimately as retail, correct?
Um, it will not be as big. It might be big, or like of a decent size right now, but I think commerce is gonna really take over on CTV. And
Mm-hmm.
and but what, we are seeing, DSPs from our space, I'm not going to mention a few, but we all know them, mobile, traditional mobile DSPs who now have an offering on CTV. And what they are doing is actually smart. It is to say, you know what, I'm going to um, um, gather or keep the IP of the household, right, where the ads have been shown, right, and then on top of that, I'm going to also um, run some display ads and also some re-engagement campaigns. So you can see how they are bringing maybe a DMP in the middle, and they are trying to triangulate you and basically just um, extend the reach that those DSPs are, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I think, none of them have really figured out, um, you know, famously in our space, Uplovin, Liftoff, Moloko, here we go. I mentioned a few, you see. I mean, they famously built device graph, right? And they've famously built ways to, oh, you want this type of audience on mobile? We know where to find it. And, using, traditionally was the IDFA and different, deterministic methods. Here, it's going to be all probabilistic, because it is based on like the IP, and it's, it's not as precise, but you can see they are really trying to use the signal more to
Mm-hmm.
basically um, activate more campaigns using CTV, and basically prove you that CTV has a role in assisting conversion. I think that's where they put CTV. Mobile. You will still take an action inside of a game, inside of an app, and download, an app or a game. But ultimately, CTV will be. They will also tell you, well, you know what? Because you've run some CTV campaign on top, you've seen a lift in your conversion by 20%. And I think this is where the market is right now, and which is, it's pretty good.
It is. There's contextual, and there's still the reason that I get ads that seem to be tailored to my wife, and she gets ads that seem to be tailored to me. Shockingly, we share an IP address among other things. But I can see the evolution in the future of streaming companies really wanting a foothold on the personal device and really wanting not just a foothold there, but signed in activity there, and then accounts on the big screen on the wall so that it knows that, yeah, I'm the one. And this phone, happened to go in, I don't know, a hockey rink or a football arena or something like that, right? And they know a little bit more about me, and they can learn and learn and learn and learn and tailor more effectively. Talk a little bit about measurement, maybe first calls to action. You talked about retail. You talked about ways that Roku and Walmart might work together, right? Boom. Walmart, they've got a lot of app installs out there, right? So a lot of people, especially in the States, will have the Walmart app. What are some of the ways that you see action happening? Is it QR code? Is it push notification to an app on here? Is it just probabilistic and you just hope that something happens and you look for a general lift?
So let's talk about what we are seeing maybe for traditional app campaign, right? If you have an app or a game on iOS and Android, and you wanna start using CTV, what have kind of been the methods in terms of measurement, and we're aware Singular is doing some great work as well in that space, and you've rolled out new capabilities, which we're excited to work with you on this. What we are seeing is that when you choose a provider, like let's say a media supplier, like a CTV DSP, whether it is the Trade Desk or there are a few others, Vibe and TV Scientific, some of them will basically tell you, you know what, we are doing ourselves the attribution. And I'm like, oh, what do you mean? I was like, well, we're gonna get from the MNP.
It's a Facebook model.
So we're gonna get from Singular all the attributed conversions from the past 7 days with the IP attached to it. And thank you very much. Yeah, that one. And then we're gonna match that with the impressions we've served on the users that have the same IP. And then they're gonna come back to you and say, you know what, you've achieved. So similar to how Facebook works, you are an expert, John. They basically credit the attribution in a very, well done, you've achieved a $6 CPI. But what you actually don't really know is that the conversion might have happened, from another channel, from Facebook, Google during the same window of time. But that's one way. So that's, they are using real-time callback. The publisher, Pluto or Tubi TV pass the IP to, let's say, the DSP, and the DSP work with the MNP to match those IP and attribution correctly. The second method, which is I think where it starts to be a bit more where we understand the role of the MNP, is to use an impression tracker, right? Is to give to a publisher, hey, please use this singular impression tag every time an ad is being served. But unfortunately, not everybody is using, is accepting those tags. Some, famously, especially the large one, they are not going to let you add an impression tag when it's served. But we think this is where the future is. It's going to remain probabilistic, and it's going to be in the waterfall of attribution, probably pretty low, because it's an impression base and it's probabilistic. So it still, it will give you a good picture, it will
Mhm.
dedupe the install against all your activity that you are running through Singular. But it's, it's still, here your results will ultimately come a little bit lower than the first method in terms of like
Mhm.
overall cost per install. Those are like, I
Mhm.
would say, the two very simple methods we've seen, right? And I'm not even
Sure.
talking about, Nielsen and, just like other methods which are panel based to, to say, yes, I've seen this ad, we're not even talking about that. Just,
Half a year later, you
yeah,
find
yeah,
out.
yeah,
Interesting. Of course, there's all the old school methodologies, right? Use this coupon code or something like that, right? Or,
yeah.
the QR code is a possibility as well. Or where did you hear about us? And you know what? I've heard some very high performance digital marketers who are like hardcore, have the whole tech stack, everything, who still swear by the where did you hear about us? Because
Oh,
they want to
really? The
know
little
from
survey?
multiple
Yeah.
places. Sorry, what's that?
The little survey at the end, that's what you mean? Like when they,
Yeah.
when,
Yeah.
yeah, that's
Mm-hmm.
interesting. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
you mentioned QR code. Um, I mean, I've worked in mobile for like 15 years, John. Um,
You've had it. You're not a believer.
it's just I will manage any marketer's expectation on
Hey,
if
I
you've
started
achieved.
using QR codes during COVID. There was no
Yeah, yeah, because you
rent
had to.
menu
Yeah,
at the
because
restaurant.
you have to eat. Sorry, that's because you have to eat something, John. That's why.
First to exactly,
But
exactly.
it is here. I mean, yeah, we have a joke with someone. It's like, yeah, please, the moment like you are seeing a 1% engagement rate on your QR code, like send me the report. I'm really like, I can't wait to see it. Yes, we've all seen what Coinbase has done. Like those kind of like gimmicky campaign that were using the QR code. Very much
Hmm.
as a great creative campaign. Again, if you want to use a QR code, what we've seen working and what we heard from partners is that use the QR code constantly throughout
Mm.
the 15, 30-second might not
Take it
look
away.
as,
I just got
yeah,
my camera. No.
yeah. Or leave it at least for 10 seconds at the end. That might be an awkward pause, but if you really want, someone to take action, we more believe in like hardware integration, integration between multiple devices, what Apple TV is doing where you can send a push notification to your phone, or what Roku is envisioning with their hardware. I think this is more the future of like, um, of driving action. So yeah,
It's pretty funny.
yeah, not a believer. Sorry.
It's totally fine. It's pretty funny while we're having this conversation. I was having a flashback. I consulted a bit with Tune, you remember back in the day, way back in the day, and they had a customer at the time, DraftKings, and they unveiled TV ad measurement. This was amazing. This was wonderful. Of course, it was time-based, right? You knew when the ad spot ran. That doesn't
Yeah.
really work in streaming TV because you have no time. Talk about some of the success stories. What are you seeing that's exciting, that's working for CTV streaming ads?
If you wanna start, um, in the CTV space, I would look at YouTube as the first point. YouTube as traditionally, you are probably already running on YouTube if you have an app through, Google
You
App
can't avoid
Campaign.
running on YouTube.
Yeah. So,
It's called
so
PMAX.
I know, but it's. I think there are additional ways you can access Google inventory on
Yes,
CTV. That is, I
yes,
think, the
true.
number one
You can only go
place.
there. Yeah.
Yeah, you can only go there. So that's one. Then on Amazon and Amazon Fire TV and Roku, you can achieve like pretty good results if you want a user to take an action inside of their platform, inside of their
Mhm.
store. So if you have, you know, whether it's a movie release or like, or if you have a channel that you want your brand wants to install inside of this environment, I think it is also a really good start. It's all CPM based. They have some interesting ad placement that are, more seasonal, but also based on the fact, okay, when someone install for the first time their Amazon Fire TV, or they what they call out of the box ad format. So there is so much, like meet with them, and they are going to show you like the 25 ad placements and that they have available for you. And then I will work with find a couple of DSPs that will give you access to exchange traffic. CPMs are ranging from like $10-15 up to like 50-60 CPM. But I think you will learn a lot here. You will have transparency on the publishers. You're going to run on like Fox TV and CNN and Tubi and Pluto TV. There is a huge inventory in there. Yeah, and start experimenting. We've seen success there. We've done some more tests with Vizio, LG ads. There is a long tail of also like connected TV suppliers. It is they they don't work in this. They don't have the same experience working with maybe performance brands. So it's not as we haven't seen as great success yet. But it's definitely something to keep in mind.
Super, super interesting. Talk about yourself a little bit. M&C Saatchi, why does somebody come to you, and what do you help them with in terms of streaming and CTV?
Well, I mean, CTV has been something we've been investing in for the past couple of years, but we also won a couple of clients that are heavily investing in CTV. So we have about 30% of our billings in the US that is on CTV. So it is really significant. M&C Saatchi Performance is globally one of the largest mobile first agency. I mean, we have like a team in APAC that is doing phenomenal. I think we're like above 300 employees, like 350 globally. So yeah, we are doing really well. We have about 50% of our business on clients which are subscription based, and mobile first. And then we have a number of new brands also, like that is looking for performance marketing services, and now CTV is a great is a greater share of we almost see that as one of the things we talk to our clients about, because it's there is a lot to do right now, and we think there are going to be clear winners, YouTube being one, and they need to understand the space very well. So we take them on this journey with, and it's been really good.
30%, that's very, very significant. What do you think the growth rate is for this space, ad-supported streaming, ad-supported CTV?
I mean, we've looked at a couple of reports, like this. They estimate the growth rate has been year on year about between 40 to 50%. And then it's declining to a 30% kind of like growth year on year, which is, I think, like still 2 times the growth of mobile app ad spending. So it's a big market, but what is interesting is more like to look at it from CTV ad spend represent 18% of the whole video ad spend. Linear, it's still 57%.
Wow.
So I think that's what we, at an ad agency, or, that what we're looking at is like, okay, how do we move those dollars to digital CTV?
Yeah.
And because, that's, we do very little linear. Linear is a different world. You have upfront, you have, it is a different world. That rarely we've done some linear TV buying, but it's hasn't been as prominent than CTV.
That is interesting, though, the 57% that you mentioned of dollars still being there with linear TV.
Yep.
You've got to look at that and say, hey, I don't know what the time span is. I don't know if it's 2 years. I don't know if it's 5 years. I don't know if it's 10 years, but almost all of that, and eventually all of that will move to this connected TV, this streaming TV, and maybe the majority of it in 5 years. I guess we'll see about that. This is a super interesting space. I guess one question I still have, if I'm looking at CTV streaming as an advertiser, and I'm wondering what kind of audiences are available there. Is everybody there? Is it a certain few segments? What do you see when you see that? I mean, because we had this impression, I want to say 2 years ago, that Netflix and Prime and some of the other services were where you went when you wanted to get away from advertising. And so you had potentially an audience there that was willing to trade money for time, right?
Yep.
And then for some others, there was a place where you would trade your time for the entertainment, right? And is that changing?
Yeah, I think the way media is more planned and CTV is like, well, first of all, like I was surprised, but there is 92% of the US households are reachable through programmatic CTV. So, I mean, there is probably YouTube in there, that seems a bit too good to be true, like 92%, but basically it means everybody can be reached through CTV, but let's see.
There's a few people in caves in Kentucky here.
I think what is interesting is that what I find fascinating is more like the change in media behavior. A few years back, you were always watching the same TV program. And then, the media planner was like, you know what, John, watch always the Kardashian. We know he likes this program. But joke aside, they were able to kind of like make some assumption based on like the content that was, displayed and saying, you know what, this content fits, this.
Send him the tanning salon ads.
Please. Now, what we're seeing from like CTV supplier, they use more of the IP data and say, you know what, we're gonna use you want a high income household where we're gonna just show those ads to like IP or like certain regions of certain cities that are high income. So there is a little bit more of like geo targeting into play. And ultimately you can buy, they all build their audience graph, right? So they will tell you, that they have, a list of IP or a list of like in their DMP, they know which audience resonates best with your brand or your app. What I find interesting is that there is one player that is actually doing kind of like the reverse right now, which is you run with them some ad and they tell you in reverse what is the profile of a user that has interacted the most with your ad. So basically, and this one, this player has a lot of commerce data, if you see what I mean. Start with a name, it's who would that be? Could that be? So, this kind of like, all right. So I think that changed, the marketer was like, we've done some research, John, we've done some survey, we think our brand appeals to this type of audience. Let's buy, And no, like here's like, you know what, run broad, and we're gonna tell you which is, I mean, it's kind of like, the approach of what Facebook and Google is doing, which is more,
it's performance marketing. It's A/B testing. It's what works, who resonates. There you go. Follow that, right? Follow the success. Wow.
So that is an interesting, that is changing the way you plan media for sure.
Guillaume, this has been a wonderful half hour. I think it's a little over half hour actually, because I think we were having fun and time flies when you're having fun. Thank you so much for taking some time. It was great to reconnect and see you again. I think we're going to be doing some more work together and some research and papers on CTV and streaming and all that stuff. I look forward to it. Thank you for taking the time today.
No, thank you, John. And I think, you and your team are putting some of the best content out there, when you are releasing on like,
All
complex
the team.
subject, can anything. So I hope that was useful for the audience. And, I look forward to seeing you in person next time.